Hey everyone, Hakase here. Welcome back to my channel. With BFA coming out very soon, I wanted to make a quick start guide for the Warlock class, and I'm going to start out here with the Affliction Warlock. Now, I'm going to assume that you have the Blizzard standard interface just so that we're on the same page, and I will make later videos detailing the use of my favorite add-ons and how you can use them to be much more effective at the game. But we're going to start with the center interface. As you can see here, I have all of the spells from my spell book, including my mount, on my action bars, and the most important spells are on the left, and the less important spells are towards the right. Also, more important spells have more comfortable key bindings, and the less important spells have less comfortable key bindings. Now, if you guys don't keybind, I would very highly recommend that you do. It seems like a hurdle, and it may seem unnecessary to you. It also may seem difficult to remember things, but trust me, you don't need to actually actively remember them. You can just assign whatever buttons you think make sense or a bit of sense to your spells, and your brain will learn them automatically on its own. Believe me, it's not even an effort, and you will definitely be happy. No one who's ever learned key binding has ever come back and said, "Oh hey, I really regret doing that." Trust me about that. And also, once you keybind any of your spells, it makes sense to keybind all of them, so I don't see why you would leave something like Great Soul Will unkeybound, because that's something you use all the time. You may as well just keybind it. But anyway, looking at the spells here, our main spells are Agony and Corruption, so you'll always want to have those up. Your nuke spell is Unstable Affliction, which is also a dot. It has a cast time, but it does insane amounts of damage, and it uses your primary resource, which is Soul Shards. Now over here you can see I also have Siphon Life, which is a talent, which I haven't selected at the moment, but if you do, you would have that, and that's an extra dot. But I would go with Absolute Corruption, and this is kind of the build I would go with for leveling and also for dungeons. You want to take Drain Soul. These two are quite cool, but I would take Drain Soul just to have that influx of shards and to always have shards for your Unstable Afflictions, and more importantly, even sometimes Seed of Corruptions. Over here, you know, most trash packs in dungeons and also the mobs that you're killing while leveling, especially if you have some gear, you're not going to get your Agony to stack, so I would recommend taking Absolute Corruption or Siphon Life if you like the healing from it. But Siphon Life also becomes more difficult, as now you have to put up 3 of your main dots on every target, and you know, I personally usually like to fight at least 3 targets at a time, and that's when I don't have great gear. With the Void Walker you can easily do that, but you know, combining 3 main dots as well as trying to put out some Unstable Afflictions just becomes too much to manage, and I just like to have Absolute Corruption most of the time. So over here I would take Burning Rush. You can take whatever you want really. For dungeons I would recommend Vile Taint. It just does more damage and is more useful because of the slow. For leveling you can take Phantom Singularity for the healing, but again it's up to you. You can really take either one of these. I like Phantom Singularity because it's an instant cast and it heals you, but it does almost no damage. Over here I would take Dark Fury, but you can also obviously take Mortal Coil, or to avoid some mechanics you can take Demonic Circle, up to you. Over here, there's no really good option for leveling. You don't really want Shadow Embrace. You can't really stack that up on multiple targets. And there's no point stacking up on short-lived targets. Same thing for dungeons. It's not really useful. Haunt, again, goes the same way. It's more of a single target oriented thing, although it's also a chain target oriented thing. You can use it like that, but I usually pull multiple mobs at the same time and they all die around the same time as well, so Haunt is not that great for that. Rumor of Sacrifice would be good, but I would use a Void Walker if I wasn't super geared. I don't know how it's going to be with my gear, but I did level on the alpha and the beta from 110 to 120 with a pre-made character with green gear, and I definitely used the Void Walker the whole time. I never wanted to go with Sacrifice, and it went very well for me. I could easily kill 3 or more mobs at a time. So you always want to be using Void Walker, so I just take Haunt to be honest here, even though I'd probably not use it that much. And on the last tier, I would recommend Creeping Death. It just makes the gameplay more fun. It makes your dots tick more faster. Not more faster, sorry, more and faster basically. But they also expire faster, which means you need to refresh them more. It's a more involved gameplay, I would say. Soul Conduit is just silly, and Darksteel Misery again is a niche ability which I wouldn't recommend for leveling or for dungeons. So now that we've looked at the talents, we can see that we have here, I like to put my cooldowns on shift ability, on shift keybinds, shift 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 if I have more cooldowns. And you can really see my keybinds. Now, if you're not a person who keybinds, or you're not a person who keybinds that much, I'd recommend you can just copy my key bindings here, and it'll take you just a minute to do that. Maybe one day you'll just start using them. You'll go like, oh hey, why would I like click and press Shadow Fury when I can just press R and press Shadow Fury. I'm sure you guys will get there and you'll never regret it. So anyway, one of the most important adjustments that you want to make is you want to make sure that over here in names, you have this selected, because you really need to see your shards. And what this personal resource display does is it shows your shards when you're in combat over here, right beside your character, along with your health and mana. So you really want to keep an eye on your shards. See, I just got 4 shards. You want to know how many you have. And you definitely don't want to look all the way up here. And that's another thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that your portrait and your target's portrait are both visible. Now, you can either leave it here and leave the resource display over here, or what I would do if I had the standard interface, I would unlock this and move it over here so I can see my health, mana, and shards, and unlock my target as well so I can see what I'm targeting, and move it on the other side of my resource display like this. And then I would lock them both just so that they don't move. And now what I have is this information displayed exactly where I need it. And now I can just disable the personal resource monitor because it shows me my health, my mana, and my shards, which I have right there. And it's a great feature added to the standard interface. And also, by putting your targets frame over here, you can see your dots, because you always want to keep your dots up. So this is, I guess, the beginning of the introduction to the gameplay. Your main dots are Agony and Corruption, and you always want to have those up. Now, your Corruption with Absolute Corruption will always stay up on its own, so you don't ever need to refresh it. And if you have a pack of 3 mobs or more, I would advise using it starting with 3 mobs. I would advise you to apply Corruption through Seed of Corruption. Because even though Corruption is an instant cast, it takes you 1.5 seconds for you to be able to cast the next Corruption. So applying 3 Corruptions takes that long, versus 1 cast of Seed of Corruption. While it's longer, it also does damage when it explodes, and applies Corruption to everything. But it uses a soul shard, so it's up to you when you want to use it. And when you don't, I find it easier to use it on 3 targets plus, rather than applying it individually, because you also have to keep in mind, if you're not using Absolute Corruption, then those Corruptions will start ticking down as you apply them, and you don't want them to ever expire. But even more important than not letting Corruption expire, you definitely don't want to let your Agony expire, because your Agony starts with doing very, very little damage, and it almost does no damage at the beginning, but once it gets to the end of its duration, once you see that number hitting 10, once it has 10 stacks, it actually does the most damage. And you definitely want to always keep it at 10 stacks, and when you refresh it before it falls off, as you can see, like I'll refresh it right there, it keeps its 10 stacks, so it keeps at its highest damage. So you always need to prioritize for all the targets in the fight, never to let Agony drop off. If anything else drops off, that's fine. If you lose a soul shard, that's fine. You shouldn't make that mistake. You shouldn't put yourself in the position where you have to decide between capping soul shards or refreshing Agony. But if you do, just refresh the Agony. The other important reason to keep Agony up is because it actually is your only soul shard generator outside of Drained Soul. And if you don't take Drained Soul, then it's your only one. So it's the thing that allows you to use your hardest hitting ability, Unstable Affliction, by giving you those shards. So essentially the idea is you want to keep your dots up, and you want to also keep up Siphon Life if you have it, and you want to use your Unstable Afflictions to do more damage. Now, for longer lived targets, you want to space out your Unstable Afflictions, because what your Unstable Affliction does is it actually debuffs the target as well, increasing the damage they take from everything you do, so by 10%. So once Unstable Affliction is up, while that Unstable Affliction is active, these dots actually do 10% more damage as well. So instead of doing, let's say, 2 Unstable Afflictions together and having just 4 seconds or 5 seconds, let's say, of increased damage of these dots, you can cast 1 Unstable Affliction, get the 4 seconds of increased damage from that one, and then once that is about to expire, cast the other one and get an extra 4 seconds, thus resulting in a 8 second boost of 10% for your dots rather than a 5 second boost. So that's just min-maxing there a little bit. And now your Dark Glare is something you want to use whenever, as leveling is just during difficult enemies or when there are multiple opponents up. And really during multiple enemies, the reason you want to use Dark Glare is not for its damage, but because it will extend the duration of your dots. So for example, I'm fighting 4 enemies at once. Look, let's say I applied already Corruption to them. I have Absolute Corruption, so it just stays up. And now see, these agonies are going to expire, right? I want to apply my Unstable Afflictions to everything. I'm going to refresh my agonies, and I'm going to have to refresh my agonies all the time. If I had more shards, that would become cumbersome. So instead of that, what I can do is, and especially with having a few Unstable Afflictions out, let's say I put Unstable Afflictions on all of them, and then I hit my Dark Glare, extending the duration of all those dots and Unstable Afflictions. Now, not only will I not have to worry about having my agonies drop off, but my Unstable Afflictions will buff damage to all of these adds at the same time. And that's also great because my Dark Glare will be hitting hard because I have a lot of dots out. And we can repeat that again. So for the same reason that you don't want to use 2 Unstable Afflictions at the same time on the target, unless you're running with like Deathbolt or something, for the same reason, whenever you're facing multiple targets, I'm going to let it drop off there, no. Whenever you're facing multiple targets, you want to make sure that you don't cast Unstable Afflictions on the same target. You want to cast one per target so that you get the most out of that 10% damage buff. And as you can see, I'm just here keeping my agony at 10 stacks, which is really easy, and that's what you should focus on doing whenever you have multiple targets. Just don't let that agony drop off. And if you have a clump of things, that's where you can use your Phantom Singularity. This is essentially what you'd be doing during trash packs or when you're fighting multiple mobs while leveling. Spreading both your main dots, keeping your agony up, and then spreading your Unstable Affliction as well for maximum results. Now let's get into how you actually fight mobs. And one thing I forgot to mention is that you actually want to keep buying your demon's abilities over here, and you may want to keep buying the other ones, but these three especially: attack, assist, and passive, because you want to make sure that you can control what your demon attacks and when you don't want it to attack or fight at all. And where you do that is action bar, and over here you have the pet action bar. As you can see, these are the 3 last buttons. And what I like to do is use Alt bindings, Alt 3 for passive, Alt 2 for assist, and Alt 1 if I want to make it attack something. Now this is actually really important for leveling, because when you're going to be fighting mobs, now I don't want to be killing these too fast, so I'm just going to take some items off. I'm going to take off my 2 legendaries, and hopefully that will make me not do too much damage to mobs over here. Let's mount up. So what you want to do is pull a mob and then tell your demon to attack it. Get some aggro, and then you want to make your demon move to other mobs, and you want to pull those as well. Now, and then you want to pull another one, tell your demon to attack that. Now your demon has aggro on all of them, and you're not actually taking any damage. That's why it's really important. Now again, these are dying a bit too fast because I'm a bit geared, over geared, so you wouldn't actually be that geared. Let me take off some more important pieces of my gear. So there we go, we pull it, put our main dots up, tell it to attack, wait for the aggro to go on my Voidwalker, make the Voidwalker attack another mob, put my dots up on that, refresh this here, make my Voidwalker run into, and these are almost dying, so even if they over aggro on me now, they'll be dead very soon, so it won't matter. So make my Voidwalker attack both of those, throw out UAs on both of them, and then another UA on this one to finish it off. So now you can see my demon is set to passive, and that's why it just ran back to me. So in default it really should be on assist, and you should only set it to passive when you don't want it aggroing anything or fighting with anything, when you just want it to follow you if you're like running from some enemies. So here, for example, let's say I want to pull both of these groups, right? So I'd make my Voidwalker run into that one. It will body pull, and it's, as you can see, it's attacking this guy. And I can make it also run into that group there. I can put agony on everything, and then I can make my demon take turns attacking all of these. I can use my Seed of Corruption to apply corruption to everything. As you can see, these are smaller mobs, so some of them will die faster. But anyway, the point is you just should check like your demon's health and heal it with health funnel in case it's getting low. And in cases like that, when it's tanking several mobs, it will definitely start to drop low, so you should keep your eye on that. And lots of times your demon is pretty beefy, but it still can die quite easily. So when you're leveling and it's tanking several mobs, definitely keep your eye out on its health, because you know, you're gonna run into a situation if you're doing 3-4 mobs at a time every time, which you should be doing, and which it's very easy to do. Your demon will die quite a few times, and at that time, all you gotta do is have a soul shard ready to summon the demon again, and that's why it's so great to have it keybound. You don't need to scramble for it, you know. You can just press it, and you definitely want to press it before your demon dies. If you see that it's going to die, you want to start channeling it while it's still alive, so that while you're channeling it, the mobs aren't hitting you, but they're still hitting that demon. And once you got your new demon up, it's a fresh demon with a full health bar, and you can get back to tanking them. So before we finish here, I just realized that there's an important thing that I forgot to keybind, and that is the Healthstone. You want to take your Healthstone when you have one, drag it to your action bars, and make sure it's keybound, because that is really important. That will save your life a lot of times. Now, what is this? Bottom right action bar from 6, I think 7, yeah. So I like to have it on Shift G, just so I can heal myself up when I need it, and that will be a lifesaver in many situations. You should make sure that you have that keybound for, especially for dungeons and raids, but in leveling it will definitely help you as well. So in the second part of this video, I'm going to talk about setting up something extremely essential for really everyone, but especially the Warlock class, and that's the Weak Auras add-on. If you guys don't use add-ons, I highly recommend you check out this video and try to set it up, and just try playing with it, because believe me, it will make your gameplay much more comfortable, more enjoyable, and it will make you a more effective player. But anyway, please leave me a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.